Hi, everybody. This is the Maternal Mental Health Workshop, Seminar, Talk, whatever you want to call it. We are also being recorded, so anything that shows up in the chat will be recorded, and you can watch this later, which is super awesome too. So, today we're going to be talking about the perinatal mood disorders. So, today that includes postpartum anxiety, postpartum depression, postpartum OCD, and postpartum psychosis. So, we're going to be talking about all of those things, and we're going to get started here in just a little bit, give everybody a chance to show up. So, while we're waiting, a little bit about me. My name is Sydney Wagner, and I am a clinical mental health counseling student with Lamar University. I am specializing in moms and postpartum mood disorders and supporting moms in their mental health before and after childbirth, and just helping families through that as well, and helping everybody to figure out how best to live with postpartum mood disorders and what we can do about them, and supporting the people that we love. So, I myself have two children and experienced postpartum anxiety with both of them, and sought help for my second one after realizing what I was truly going through. So I have experience on both ends. Um, I have been in my counseling program for almost 5 years now, almost done, which is very exciting. I'm practicing out of Texas. So if you are in Texas and you're looking for a counselor, I'm taking new clients in January. Yeah, there you go. So, I guess we'll go ahead and get started. So, first, what we're going to do is talk about the difference between postpartum mood disorders and baby blues. So, baby blues are pretty typical in most moms. Most new mothers experience baby blues, and that's basically what happens is a huge crash of hormones right after you've had your baby, and it just kind of messes with your head, kind of throws everything haywire, right? So, you know, sleeplessness, which you have a new baby, you're not gonna be sleeping anyways, but difficulty falling asleep, irritability, crying spells, those kinds of things. They can happen up to 2 weeks after birth. After that, if they continue, then you're probably looking at a postpartum mood disorder, although it depends again on the symptoms and the person. So, some more symptoms of baby blues could be mood swings, anxiety, sadness, feeling overwhelmed, trouble sleeping, appetite problems. And again, our hormones play such a huge role in all of those things, in childbirth and all of that. And that can really just mess up a lot of things in our body. So, our body trying to get used to those hormone shifts and seeing what we can do about that is really the baby blues part of it. So, also, if you're breastfeeding, that can play a huge role in it as well because that's a lot of hormones. So it's just really your body re-regulating and figuring out its new balance with these new hormones that have flooded your body after giving birth to a child. So that's really what baby blues is just kind of feeling not like yourself while your body's readjusting to the hormones. And if it continues after the 2, 3 weeks, sometimes even a month mark, that's when we're really looking at a postpartum mood disorder. So, what we're going to do is talk through all of them, and then we will talk about how you can support people in your world that are experiencing this and what you can do yourself if you're experiencing this. Um, and then when you really need to seek a professional. So, the first one we're going to talk about is postpartum depression, which most people are pretty familiar with if they are in the childbearing years. It's the one that's talked about the most, and it is about as common as postpartum anxiety. Postpartum depression and anxiety are about the same. So, the symptoms of postpartum depression, and again, this is after the baby blues period has ended, right? So, after the 2-week mark, if these symptoms persist, that's when we're looking at depression or anxiety or one of the other ones. So, some of the symptoms of postpartum depression would be severe mood swings, severe irritability, excessive crying, difficulty bonding with your baby, withdrawing from people that you love, changes in your appetite that are really noticeable, an inability to sleep or sleeping too much, thoughts of harming yourself or your baby. Now, this one's really scary to a lot of moms. Thoughts of harming yourself or your baby. And that's different than actively doing it. So, this thoughts of harming yourself or your baby is called intrusive thoughts. And intrusive thoughts can be harmful in nature, like them getting hurt, you getting hurt, car accident, falling, those kinds of things. Um, they can also be like kidnapping. It can also be sexual thoughts. It can also be thoughts of intentionally harming your baby or yourself. It can be thoughts of intentionally harming somebody else. Um, but the intrusiveness of those thoughts in nature is that they are sudden. They have not been in your world before, and they are unwanted. They cause you distress when they happen in your brain, and they kind of just come out of nowhere, and you think, "Oh my goodness, how in the world can I think that about my baby?" That's an intrusive thought. And research shows that these thoughts have a very, very low um, probability of actually being acted upon. So having these thoughts does not mean that they're going to happen or that you will act upon them or anything of that nature. It is simply your body readjusting to those hormones and your brain kind of going in overdrive to try and keep you and your baby and those around you safe. And your brain thinks, oh, if I have a plan for when this thing happens, then I'll be more equipped when this thing happens. And so it's just your brain going into overdrive to try and keep you and your baby safe. So that's what intrusive thoughts are. And they happen in all four of these um, postpartum mood disorders that we're talking about. And they can be really troubling and they can make you feel honestly crazy. They can just be really, really troublesome and not what you want to go be going on in your brain. So that's postpartum depression. It's just really a generally feeling of being depressed and sad and crying to the point that it is impacting your daily function um, and to the point that it is troublesome. So, we're all going to feel depressed at some point. That's just human nature. We're all going to feel sad at some point, especially after having a baby. It is very common and normal to have big emotions and, some crying spells. But again, when they persist past about the 1 month mark is when you really need to be not concerned, but looking out for other symptoms of postpartum mood disorders. So just keeping an eye on that one. If there is a point when you're feeling like you just can't get out of bed and you cannot effectively care for your baby, that or yourself, that is the point when you need to seek some professional help. So, if your symptoms are impacting your daily function and it is making it difficult for you to, like I said, care for your baby, care for yourself, if you're noticing a decline in your physical health as well as your mental health, that's at the point that you need to be seeking help from a mental health professional. Um, there are several resources for reaching out to a mental health professional, and we'll talk about those a little bit later. But there are several resources and many free resources that can help. And there is also a maternal mental health hotline, which I will share with you a little bit later. And that's a great one too, 24-hour service. That's really helpful. So, what can we do when postpartum depression, we can kind of feel it creeping in, but we're not to the point yet where it's impacting our daily function? The symptoms are just troubling. So, there's a couple of things you can do. One, talk to somebody. Talk to your partner, talk to a family member, talk to a trusted friend. Tell them what's going on in your brain. Ideally, it would be another mother who will not be judgmental or worried about you. Just somebody that you can talk with and explain what's going on and tell them this is what's going on in my head. Just getting it out of your head is so helpful. And 9 times out of 10, the mom will say, "Oh yeah, I went through that too." Because 7 out of 10 of us go through it. And it is very, very common. And knowing that you're not alone and knowing that other people have gone through it too and they came out the other side just fine is so helpful. And just knowing that you've got support out there is great. Um, if that's not available to you, if for whatever reason you just don't have a support system, which is totally fine, You can always reach out to the Maternal Mental Health Hotline, and they are there to listen 24 hours a day. And I'll put that number in the comments as well. And another thing you can do is really focusing on your nutrition. So, making sure that you have a healthy, balanced diet, drinking enough water, considering postnatal vitamins as well as prenatal vitamins. If you're breastfeeding, looking at those things that are approved for breastfeeding for sure, and really focusing on a whole food vitamin. So there's lots of synthetic vitamins out there, and they just don't, they're synthetic, right? So you want to look for a whole food vitamin that has their nutrients that come from food instead of synthetics. Um, Garden of Eden, I'm pretty sure is the name of the brand. It's a good one. Um, there are several of them out there. Silver Fern brand is also a really great brand for um, vitamins and probiotics. Probiotics are another one that's great. Looking at your magnesium levels is also a really good one to help combat depression and anxiety. There are so many studies out there about the link between magnesium and the decrease in depression and anxiety symptoms. So that's a great one too. It's also really great for tummy troubles. Magnesium is. So those are some really good things to look at. So support system, just having somebody to talk to, just getting it out of your brain. Also, journaling can be super helpful. And another thing that I have experienced with my clients is that people frequently don't tell other people about their intrusive thoughts because they're afraid somebody's going to take their baby away, or they're afraid that somebody's going to call CPS and they're going to do an investigation or something like that. So, having a thought about harm coming to your baby or yourself and acting on that thought are two entirely different things. And remember, we said earlier that having the thought, there's a very, very, very low likelihood that those thoughts will be acted upon. There's so much research out there about intrusive thoughts, and the fact that you have that thought and it is distressing to you means that you are very unlikely to act on that thought. So having those thoughts does not mean that you're going to hurt your baby or yourself or anybody else around you. And that's have some solace in that, knowing that it doesn't mean that you're going to do anything about it. And talking to somebody and saying, I don't have any plans to do this. This is very distressing to me. I would never, of course, want to hurt my baby. I would never want to hurt myself. But these are the thoughts that are cropping up into my head. Then that person is likely not going to uh, call CPS or anything like that. And CPS can't just come and take your baby. That's not what they do. They do an investigation, look into things, make sure the baby is safe, and all of that. So nobody's going to come to your house and just take your baby because you said, "Oh, I sometimes think that I'm going to throw my baby down the stairs." That's simply just not going to happen. So know that when you share these thoughts with somebody, especially somebody that you trust, it's not going to end in somebody taking your baby. It's just going to get it out of your brain and help you process these thoughts and figure out what's going on. So those are some things you can do. There's also some guided meditation apps. Insight Timer is a really good one, and it's free. There's lots of different things you can listen to in that one, just kind of helping calm your brain. Also, regular exercise is great for increasing those endorphins and kind of balancing out those hormones. Hormones go through your blood, right? And 90% of hormones are created in our gut. And so if we get our body moving and get that blood circulating, it's going to help our body kind of redistribute those hormones a little bit more effectively and get all of the toxins out and help things kind of get moving and get everything rebalanced if we're moving our body on a daily basis. There's a lot of research shown that even 20 minutes of brisk walking every day can help rebalance hormones and help your just general mental health be improved. So just walking, if you have a new baby, walking with them in the stroller after you've been cleared by a doctor for physical activity, please, and making sure that your baby is strapped in and dressed for the weather and all of that. Just taking a walk around the block, or just walking in your backyard, or even walking up and down the stairs, whatever you've got available to you. I found it great whenever I had tiny, tiny babies to watch a movie and pace the floor. That one's really good. You could also I really enjoyed watching nature documentaries and, like, walking to the nature documentary, if that makes sense. And that way the baby's learning too, right? Yeah. Um, those are some really great ones. So, to recap, postpartum depression, some things that can help that are talking to somebody that you trust, either that's a mental health professional or a friend, family member, partner, whoever. Making sure that your diet and water intake is adequate. Vitamins can be a great part of that. Regular exercise and just being gentle with yourself too. Knowing that your hormones are rebalancing themselves and that there's so much going on in your body. It's okay to have big feelings. It's okay to feel overwhelmed. It's when we ruminate in that and sit in that and don't reach out for help that it becomes a problem. So, those are some things you can do just for yourself for postpartum depression. Now, again, if it gets to the point where you feel like you don't feel like you can function on a daily basis, that these symptoms are taking over your world, and that is it is all you can do to get out of bed in the morning and get yourself and your baby fed, that's when you need to reach out for mental health help. And there are plenty of professionals out there that can help and are super happy to help. I'm one of them. I'm taking new clients in January. So, if you are looking for somebody to talk to, I'm available coming in January. So, that's postpartum depression. The next most common one is postpartum anxiety. So, similar symptoms, disrupted sleep, intrusive thoughts, sometimes nausea can be a part of postpartum anxiety, loss of appetite, restlessness, excessive worry, irritability, rage can be a part of postpartum anxiety, um, feeling overwhelmed. I think I said that. And intrusive thoughts is a really, really big one on that one. And just irritability, feeling just general sense of anxiousness. Um, Inability to sleep is a big one. So very similar to postpartum depression, but more amped up, more anxious. You feel like you have to be doing something all the time. You can't sit down. Um, if I don't feed the baby on a very specific schedule, then they're going to lose weight and not be healthy. Um, those kinds of things. So intrusive thoughts are more danger oriented in postpartum anxiety, I would say, and more focused on like catastrophic happen things happening to the baby, like car accidents, driving off a bridge, um, dropping the baby, intentionally throwing the baby, those kinds of things, intentionally hurting the baby or yourself. Those intrusive thoughts are more common with postpartum anxiety than they are with depression. Um, so that one, the a great thing you can do for postpartum anxiety is some somatic resets. So what that means is a physical thing you can do with your body that will reset the somatic part of your brain. So there's a couple of different things you can do. Breathing techniques is really great, and matching a physical technique with your breath is very helpful. So one of the ones that I like a lot and is super easy to do is you take your hands like this and you slide your fingers to the end of your palm and then switch, slide your fingers this way. So breathe in, breathe out. Breathe in, breathe out. Breathe in, breathe out. That's a really good one. And helping your brain kind of calm down and in that hamster wheel spinning of anxiety, using your hands and really focusing on the feeling of your fingertips sliding from your hand to your palm and back. Really focusing on that feeling is great. Another one is touching your fingers to your thumb. Can you see that like this? And then going back and matching your breath to this one too. So inhale, exhale. Inhale, exhale. Inhale, exhale. That's a really good one. That one's great for when you're feeling overwhelmed, when you're feeling like a lot of those intrusive thoughts are coming all at once. That's a really, really good one. Another good one is just like shaking or kind of like doing a dance party. So, like putting on some music and kind of shaking your hands. That one gets some blood flowing. It really helps kind of get your mind out of your mind and into your body and kind of bringing back feeling to your body. Another great one you can do is like tapping or patting across your body, on your legs, on your arms. That's a good one too. Another really, really good one, especially for sleep, is making a figure eight on your forehead. So you start in the middle of your forehead and you go down your nose and around your eye, back around, and then back down your nose and around your eye and back down. So this one is really great for sleep. You can also use it on your kids. That's pretty good. So just doing that one and matching your breath with it, right? So inhale around one eye, exhale around the other eye. Inhale, exhale. That's a really, really good one, especially for sleep. You could also do it with both hands if you wanted, like 2 circles around your eyes with both hands. That's a good one. Another really great one for, intrusive thoughts and just anxious thoughts in general is naming the thoughts and, like, giving the like, a personal name, like a person's name, like Bob. So, when you have those thoughts in your brain and your brain's kind of going in overdrive, like we said, trying to keep you and your family safe and your baby safe, you can say, "Okay, Bob, you've done your job. We don't need you right now. You can go sit in the corner." And so acknowledging, "Okay, brain, you're doing your job. You're trying to keep us safe, but we don't need you right now. You're doing too much. So take those thoughts and go sit in the corner." Having that kind of separation between you as a person and your thoughts is very helpful, because sometimes when people are experiencing anxiety, they can think, "Oh, I'm having this thought, so it must be true because it's happening in my brain. Oh no, let me figure out why I had this thought. Let me figure out what to do about this thought." And having a thought does not make it a truth at all. It is just a thought. So saying to your brain, "Okay, brain, thank you for this thought. Thank you for trying to keep my family and my baby safe. You are not true. You can go sit over there now." So instead of just pushing it away, like, "No, that's not true. No, that's not true. No, I don't need to talk about that. No, I don't need to think about that." That just kind of makes it worse, right? So acknowledging it, saying, "I am having this thought," and then putting it in the corner. Sometimes whenever we were kids, my mom used to say, "Put it in a bubble and blow it away," those kinds of things. Um, but just kind of pushing it away and not acknowledging it is just gonna make it worse. So, saying to your thoughts, "Thank you for trying to keep me safe. Thank you for doing your job. You're at overdrive. You need to take a chill pill. Go sit over there in the corner. Nobody wants to talk to you." That's a really great one. Um, Side note, it's also super helpful for negative self-talk. Just a little tip there for you. Um so that's a really, really good one. Again, another great thing that can help with this one is talking to somebody and telling them, "Hey man, I the other day thought I was gonna throw my kid down the stairs. It was really scary. I did not like it." And 9 times out of 10, if they're a mom too, they'll be like, "Yeah, dude, I totally thought I was gonna throw my baby in the ocean when I was at the beach the other day." Stuff like that. Like, it is very common. It is so much more common than we talk about. And knowing that you're not alone and that there's other people out there who have also had those same very scary thoughts about hurting their baby or harm coming to their baby or themselves is so helpful. It's just like a sigh of relief of like, "Okay, I'm not crazy. I'm not going to hurt my baby. I'm not a bad mom. These are just my brain readjusting to hormones." And that's all it is. So that's super, super helpful. So, the point when you should seek help for postpartum anxiety is when, again, these symptoms become troublesome and make it to where you cannot function on a daily basis. So, um, when the intrusive thoughts get to the point where it's making you do things to actively avoid the outcome of the intrusive thought, that's the point when you need to seek help. That's the point when you need to talk to somebody who's a professional. Um, if you are overly anxious about your baby's feeding schedule, if they're breastfeeding, measuring the exact time between feeds and how long they fed and all of these things and keeping a journal of it, in the beginnings times, that's fine. But as your baby gets older and their output is good, they're gaining weight, they're healthy, tracking that to a certain degree is an anxious tendency. So that to the point where it's impacting your daily function, that's something you need to seek professional help for. If you are getting to the point of rage outbursts to where people in your family have noticed that you are very angry and very irritable, that's the point when you need to seek professional help. Um, if you are anxiously doing anything, like if you are even anxious to leave the house with your child, or by yourself, or if you're anxious if your family leaves the house and you're afraid they're not going to come back, at that point, you need to seek professional help. And again, there's so many resources out there, and I will put them all in the comments for you guys whenever the live stream is done, so I can give that my full attention. So that's postpartum anxiety. And again, both of those, anxiety and depression, are so incredibly common. And 1 in 7 moms, or 7 out of 10 moms, depending on which statistic you're looking at, experience postpartum depression and anxiety to the point that it needs to be treated by a professional. So it is not anything to do with you as a parent. It is not anything to do with your mental health outside of being a parent, or at all. It doesn't mean anything about you as a person. It just means that your body is having a hard time readjusting to the hormones that are now in your body after having a baby. And that is 100% not your fault. 100% not your fault. Now, if you are predisposed to anxiety before you have a baby, you are a little bit more likely to experience these things, but it's not much. So, if you are predisposed to anxiety, having a conversation with your practitioner about, hey, I'm already kind of an anxious person, or I'm already being treated for anxiety or depression, or I'm already taking medication for anxiety and depression. I am concerned about how that will affect my postpartum period. That is a wonderful conversation to have, and you should 100% have that conversation. If you are already being treated for anxiety or depression, if you are already taking medication, please have that conversation with your doctor or whoever is delivering your baby. Please, 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 because they can give you resources and give you some different level of care if they already know that you're going into it already having that predisposition to anxiety or depression. Okay, so those are those two guys. Now, the other two are less common, but still common. Okay. Not nearly as common as postpartum depression or anxiety, but still very common. Not very common. Still, they happen. So, these ones, if you are experiencing any symptoms of these, I would suggest seeking professional help, because these two other ones are can be a little bit more serious and likely will need some more professional help. And they can be helped. They are temporary. All of these are temporary, and they can be helped. But these ones are the symptoms are a little bit more difficult to deal with on a daily basis. So the next one is postpartum obsessive compulsive disorder. So OCD in the media makes all of us mental health professionals crazy because it is not overly organizing. It's not needing to have things in alphabetical order. It's not needing to have things in a specific way. Obsessive compulsive disorder, by its definition, is an obsession over a specific thing, specific thought, specific person, really anything. And compulsions are things that you feel compelled to do, so this obsession turns out the way that you want it to, or the way that you don't want it to. Let me give you an example. So, postpartum obsessive compulsive disorder would be, I am concerned about my baby's weight. So, I am going to make sure that I get this specific kind of formula, and only from this specific place, because I've done the research on this specific place and it's the cleanest or whatever. And I'm going to make sure that they have these specific bottles and they are cleaned in this specific way. And nobody else can do it but me, because nobody else is going to do it correctly. And I'm the only one that can feed them, because I'm the only one that can do it right. And I'm going to measure their weight before they eat and after they eat to make sure that they're getting enough. and I'm going to measure the amount of ounces that they eat so that way I can make sure that they are getting exactly what they need and they're not going to eat any more than that because if they eat more than that, then they're going to be obese. Do you see where this is going? So the compulsion is the obsession would be my child's weight or their health in general. The compulsion would be I have to do everything in the feeding process to specifically make sure that these things are done in a specific way, otherwise my baby's going to die. That is obsessive compulsive disorder in relationship to postpartum mood disorders, okay? So it is an obsession, an all-consuming thought of a specific thing, not things have to be just so. That I would say is just being neat or liking things in a specific way. That's not an obsession. And being obsessed with that specific thing and the compulsion would be I have to do everything specifically right in a very specific way. Otherwise, catastrophe. Otherwise, my baby's going to die. Otherwise, they're going to be taken from me. So the obsession is one specific thing, and the compulsion is the things that you do in order to stop this thing from happening. And if you specifically are not the one who does it, then your baby's going to die. That is obsessive compulsive disorder in the postpartum mood disorder genre. Obsessive compulsive disorder in outside of the postpartum mood disorder family is similar, but not related to having a baby. So an obsession, a compulsion related to that obsession, otherwise catastrophe. That is obsessive compulsive disorder. So there you go. And again, if it gets to this level, if the symptoms of postpartum OCD are to the point where it is all consuming and your entire day revolves around these compulsions and the obsession, then that is the point when you need to seek professional help. If you are feeling like your entire day, your entire being is revolved around this one thing and not around the baby, but around a specific part of the baby's care. So they're feeding, they're dressing, they're going outside, their germs, those kinds of things. That's the obsessive compulsive part. And of course, when you're a new mom or have a new baby, you're going to feel like your entire world revolves around this tiny person because it kind of does for a bit. But when you feel like my entire day, every hour, every minute of my day is spent on this specific thing, on feeding my baby, on preparing food for my baby, on making sure my baby is clean, making sure the house is clean so my baby doesn't catch any germs, very carefully monitoring who's coming in and out of my house, who touches my baby, those kinds of things. If your entire day is based around one specific part of the care of your baby, and it is to the point where you cannot function in other areas of your life, that is the point when you need to seek professional help. Sometimes postpartum anxiety can bleed into postpartum OCD. They're pretty similar, so they can kind of cross paths a little bit. But the point of OCD is about the very specific thing, the very specific part of the care of your baby. Um, and anxiety is kind of more of a general anxiety about the baby as a person. So again, the obsession and the compulsions, otherwise, and if you don't do them correctly, otherwise catastrophe. That is obsession, obsessive compulsive disorder. Anxiety is just kind of more of a general thing. If you have questions about that, please send me a message and I'm happy to clarify it further. Okay, so that one, again, I would seek help about that if you were feeling that tendency for it to be an obsession. If you're like, my entire brain is consumed by this, I would seek help for sure. Okay, the last one is postpartum psychosis. And this one is not very common. It does still happen, but it is not the most common of the four. It is the least common. So postpartum psychosis is marked by confusion, obsessive thoughts, hallucinations, sleep disturbances, excessive energy, paranoia, attempts to harm yourself or your baby. So this one If you are experiencing any symptoms of this one, I would encourage you to seek help immediately. Um, if you are or s if you or somebody you know who's just had a baby is very confused to the point that you are concerned about them, have them seek help or seek help for them. And 100% it is always okay to call 911 about these things. They can direct you to the right person, and they will make sure that you get the help that you need. 988 is the mental health hotline. So it's like 911, but it's specifically for mental health. 988, okay? It replaced the suicide hotline, but it is also for just like general mental health. Okay? 988 mental health hotline. Okay. So, if somebody you know or yourself are just very confused after having a baby to the point that it's concerning. If you're having obsessive thoughts, which is kind of in the OCD territory, but not really. Um, it's less about one specific thing and more kind of general obsessive thoughts. Hallucinations, if you or somebody you know has had a baby and they are having hallucinations, please seek help immediately. Immediately, because that can also mean that something is going on with their body that could be very dangerous, like physical health wise. Sleep disturbances, so not being able to sleep for days, or sleeping for days. Um, waking up in the middle of the night in terror. Um, yeah, not being able to sleep unless they are in the same room with the baby or just general sleep disturbances, but like to the next level sleep disturbances. Excessive energy, so like just like Energizer Bunny all the time and then just crashing. That's definitely a symptom of postpartum psychosis. Paranoia is a big one. Just being paranoid about who's around your baby, if there's somebody outside, not being able to drive anywhere with your baby because you're so paranoid that something's gonna happen or that somebody's gonna take your baby or you're gonna get carjacked, something like that. Attempts to harm yourself or your baby. This one is a hard one to talk about, but it does happen. Um, and again, some people's brains just have a really, really hard time readjusting to those hormones after having a baby. And in those cases, um, professional help is needed. And in most cases in postpartum psychosis, um, medication is also needed. And it may not be all the time, the whole time. It may not be forever, but getting your body back to the point of equilibrium to be able to care for yourself and your baby is important, necessary, vital, even because that's that's your job now as a mom is to take care of that baby. So seeking immediate mental health help for postpartum psychosis. If you know anybody who is experiencing these symptoms, if you yourself are experiencing these symptoms, please seek help immediately, so that something does not happen. That's not fun to talk about. It's it does happen though. So just be aware that that is something that can happen. If you are concerned about yourself, please call 988 and they can talk you through it, or seek help from a mental health professional. Again, seeing new clients in January, so I'm happy to help. And there are a lot of other mental health professionals who also are well versed in postpartum mood disorders. So those are the four postpartum mood disorders, the big ones. And of course, there's, varying degrees of each of these. Some of them don't need professional help, some of them do. So it is your own personal feeling. If you feel like your symptoms are such that you cannot function on a daily basis, or they're so troubling that you feel like you need somebody to talk to who's a professional, then reach out for help. There's no shame in that. And I've seen lots of statistics that almost 70% of moms who experience postpartum mood disorders never ask for help. And you don't have to suffer alone because being a mom is hard. It's so hard. And our brains sometimes make it really hard. So reaching out for help and saying, man, I'm really struggling with this. This is really distressing to me. There's no shame in that. It's just you saying, hey, I really need help. I need somebody to talk to that's kind of outside of my world, that's a non objective listener. And that's okay. That's more than okay. We always say as moms, like, you can't pour from an empty cup, right? So if you are experiencing a postpartum mood disorder, your cup is being emptied from your brain trying to make sense of all of the thoughts that are in there. So having somebody help you fill that cup back up and take some of that stress off of your shoulders, there's nothing wrong with that. It's needed. You gotta be a whole person before you can start pouring out to your kids. So please don't feel any shame or embarrassment or anything about reaching out for help in mental health related fields. You wouldn't walk around with a broken leg, so you would go to the doctor. It's the same thing. Your brain is having a hard time adjusting and you need help, and that's okay. That's totally okay. And even if, you haven't had a baby recently and you just need somebody to talk to, that's okay too. It's 100% fine to always seek mental health help. It's totally okay. We need to end the stigma on that because a lot of people suffer in silence, and that's just not okay. We need to be able to reach out for help and not feel like we are broken, because we're not. Sometimes we just need help. Sometimes we just need somebody to talk to. Okay, so all of those things, now that we've gone to church, all of these things, except for postpartum psychosis, can also be seen in new dads. So, new dads can also experience postpartum depression, anxiety, and OCD. I bet you didn't know that. And actually, 1 in 5 dads experiences at least one of these things. So, and sometimes they can be together. So a lot of moms and dads experience postpartum depression and anxiety together. Sometimes it's one, sometimes it's both, sometimes they're together. You never know. So it is common to experience both of them together. So sometimes one will start first, like the depression, and then people will be anxious about, oh, I'm having these depressive thoughts. What does that mean about me as a parent? And then the postpartum anxiety gets compounded into that. Or other way around, they're anxious, and so then they become depressed because they feel like there's no way out. And so that sometimes they can be together. So with dads, it's the same thing, reaching out for help, telling somebody how you're feeling, telling somebody, your partner, family member, mental health professional, hey, I'm having these feelings about becoming a new parent. Because here's something I bet you didn't know. They have done so much research that the hormones in a dad also shift when they become a dad. So while their body has not gone through the immense amount of physical changes that a mom has when she births a baby, their hormones change because their brain is changing. Their brain is rewiring to become a father and to have that ability and those intuition kind of a things to become a father. And so their hormones are changing too, and their brain has to readjust and figure out what to do with all of these new hormones. And so they can also experience postpartum depression and anxiety. And so a lot of dads also experience baby blues. And so they will also have all of the same symptoms. And it may be not to the same level as the mom or the other partner, but it could also be, the same symptoms: crying, mood swings, irritability, sleep disturbances, trouble sleeping, appetite problems, all of the things. They have also been seen in dads. Um, and again, 2 women partners as well. The woman partner who did not birth the baby can also experience these things. So the 2 people came together to make this baby, right? And both of their hormones are changing. And that equals sometimes some disturbances in their mood and in their mental health. And that's okay. It's totally completely understandable. It's like, when you rearrange the furniture in your house and you stub your toe on the ottoman that you moved that wasn't there before. It's the same thing, right? Your brain is stubbing its toe on your new hormones and trying to figure out how to readjust to this new configuration of furniture in your brain, right? So we need to be gentle with ourselves and understand that it is totally okay for us to have a hard time with this because our brain is literally rewiring itself. The brain of a mother and a father and the brain of a person who does not have children are completely different because they need different sets of skills, right? And they also need to adjust to different sleep patterns and just different things in general. And And that's okay. And it's okay to have a hard time with that. And that's why we're here, right? That's why there's so many mental health professionals, because we are trained and have experience in helping you work through these things. That's why we're here. That's our job. That's our passion. So it's okay to reach out. And even if you feel like, oh, well, I shouldn't have a hard time, I'm talking to dads here. I shouldn't have a hard time because I didn't birth the baby. I don't have to be up feeding them, blah, 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 blah. No, your brain still rewired itself. It is okay for you to be struggling. And it's also okay if you're not struggling with these specific symptoms, but seeing your partner go through these symptoms can be distressing to you, especially if it's in the psychosis, OCD area and even the anxiety and depression area. Watching your partner go through this and feeling powerless about that is very common. And seeking help for that is also okay. It is completely okay to say, this is really troubling to me. I need help. And talking to a trusted friend who's been through it, talking to a family member, talking to a mental health professional, all of those are okay and needed. So please don't ever feel like you can't reach out just because you're not the one who birthed the baby. So, that was a lot of information. I is this is going to be recorded again, so if you want to go back and rewatch it, that's totally cool. If you want to message me about some things, that's totally cool. I didn't get any questions, which is fine. So, I don't have specific questions to answer about things. Um, but yeah, we can kind of recap. So, most of the postpartum mood disorders can be treated just with a talking to a counselor. The ones that really need to be treated with some more intense treatment would be postpartum OCD and postpartum psychosis. If you know somebody or you yourself are experiencing any symptoms of actively having a plan to harm yourself or your baby, or actively having hallucinations, delusions, severe confusion, please call 911 or 988 immediately so you can get help. And so that your baby can get help. Um, please don't hesitate to do that. Now, the other ones, some things that we can really focus on are calming techniques, right? The breathing techniques we talked about, mindful meditations, guided imagery on different apps. If you just search for guided imagery on YouTube or on an app, any one of those things is helpful. The hand somatic releases is good with the palm rubbing. That's a good one too. Just some deep breaths and making sure that we're focusing on good nutrition, good water intake. Oh, you should drink half your body weight in ounces of water a day at least. Okay. So if you're 100 pounds, 50 ounces of water every day. Cool. Focusing on good nutrition and vitamins. So whole food vitamins. Silver Fern brand is a really good one. Mary Ruth Organics is another really good one. I want to say it's Garden of Eden. I'm pretty sure that's what it's called. That's a really good one. Just focusing when it says like whole food vitamins on the label, and then like it should say in the ingredients what foods they use. That's what you want to look for. Nothing synthetic. And also staying away from artificial sweeteners in vitamins, because those have been known to mess up your gut microbiome, which is where your hormones are made. But that's another story. So, focusing on nutrition, focusing on water, sleep. I know you just laughed at me. Sleep with a newborn baby is silly, but making a plan for sleep, right? And if you're in it, if you're in the throes of having a brand new baby, making a plan for how to move forward. So, if that means grandma or whoever comes over and hangs out with the baby while mom takes a nap, that's okay. Making sure that, the nighttime feedings, whether or not you're breastfeeding or formula feeding, is equally shared so that each partner can get an adequate amount of sleep. That is a huge, huge, huge one. Getting enough sleep can make the biggest difference in your mental health. So making a plan for sleep, prioritizing sleep, figuring out how as a team you guys are both going to sleep, or if you're not a team, if it's just you, reaching out for help and finding a way that you can get sleep with a new baby is so important, because that can make the biggest difference. And also just reaching out for help and reaching out to a trusted friend, family member, mental health professional, and saying, I'm having a really hard time with this. I need somebody to talk to. And if, your family member or trusted friend has a history of like feedback, you can, it is 100% always okay to say, I don't need any advice on this. I just need you to listen so I can get this out of my brain. That is totally fine. And it will also take the pressure off the other person because how many times have you been in a conversation where you're like, oh my gosh, they're looking for advice and I have nothing to say. I have no idea what to say to this person and they're really struggling. So just going into it saying, I don't need any advice. I don't need you to tell me anything. I just need you to listen. That way, the boundaries are set. They know what they're getting themselves into. And you can also say, do you have the capacity to listen to this right now? And if they say no, you can find a different time to talk about it. Journaling is also super helpful. Um, and really just talking it out and getting it out of your brain is very, 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 very helpful. Also, being gentle with ourselves and reminding ourselves that one, social media is a construct, right? Nobody on social media has it all together. Not a one. Not a single person has their stuff together. And it's all a facade on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, all of that. So comparing yourself to another mom who has like some stylized photo shoot or whatever, or looks like she has her entire life together, is only going to make you feel worse, right? So being really mindful of your social media feed and being really, really mindful of how somebody's posts make you feel. If their posts consistently make you feel bad about yourself, stop following them. It's not worth your time. It is not worth your mental energy. You are an amazing person and you don't need that negativity in your life. You don't need somebody else making you feel bad because they spent 3 hours putting together an Instagram shoot and it looked like it took 2 minutes. That's not, you don't need that nonsense. So just unfollow them and follow somebody that does cute baby animals instead. That's what I do. Cute baby animals. That's like all my Instagram feed is because I don't have time for that nonsense. If somebody's posts consistently make you feel bad, or if you get into Facebook fights with the same person consistently, stop following them, unfriend them, get them out of your brain. You don't need that. You've got enough stuff to worry about. Just go away. Leave them alone. It's not worth it. And that's just, life. So, there you go. That is all I have to say about postpartum mood disorders and their symptoms and what you can do about them. And again, please, if you are struggling with any of these things, if you feel like you might be struggling with any of these things, if you know somebody who's struggling with any of these things, please reach out for help. Please let me know. Send me a message. You can email me. Just let me know if there's something that's going on that you want to talk about. And even if you don't need regular sessions, if you just need somebody for an hour to listen to what's going on in your world, that's totally okay. That's what we're here for. Just a non-objective listener, right? So, there's all the info about postpartum mood disorders. And again, that's not an exhaustive list. That is what I know about postpartum mood disorders and their treatment. So, if you have a question, you are super welcome to send me a message. If you have any comments, you're welcome to leave them, but no hateful things, no judgment, no craziness. I will delete them. Okay? Deal? All right. Let's not be jerks. So, I hope you found this informative. Next week on Tuesday at 7, I'm going to do a Boundaries for the Holidays YouTube live. It should be very fun. I'm very much looking forward to it. If you have difficult family interactions, if you're having difficulty with boundaries around your baby or your family or your children or your partner, whatever, come and we'll talk about it. I know holidays are very stressful for a lot of people because family interactions can sometimes be stressful. So come on down next Tuesday and we're going to figure it out together. All right. I hope you guys have a wonderful evening. And if I don't see you before then, have a wonderful Thanksgiving. And I thank you for watching. Bye bye.